Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jason Knight, and on each episode of this podcast I'll be having frank and open conversations about building and marketing products and building the businesses behind them. I'll be digging deep into best practices, war stories and hot takes to try and inspire you to build the right things, build them right, and get them to market effectively. If that sounds good and you're not bored of my voice yet, then why not head over to onenightinproduct.com where you can sign up to the mailing list, subscribe on your favourite podcast app, or follow the podcast on your favourite social media platform and guarantee you never miss another episode again. On tonight's episode, we're back in the same ballpark as the very first episode of this podcast, although we're playing on a different team, talking about automated cryptocurrency trading and building the fintechs of the future. We talk about some of the pros and cons of blockchains, start thinking about painting ourselves purple and blue for NFTs, and talk about how to rationalise a desire for eco-awareness in the world with the burgeoning energy use of blockchain. We also talk about a new approach to building products, the DDDT Process, which was self-invented and may even result in a new book, Basecamp style. For all this and much more, please join us on One Night in Product. So my guest tonight is Gabriele Musella. Gabriele is a UX designer, product manager, multiple startup founder and Google Launchpad mentor who started out with a job counting cars on the highway before taking his head for numbers into the world of automated cryptocurrency trading with YCombinator-backed Coinrule. Gabriele describes himself as a digital nomad, radically honest and passionate about the environment, so I'm looking forward to his radically honest take on the burgeoning energy use of crypto. Also hates unfinished things, so I'll be sure to... Hi Gabriele, how are you tonight?
Hi, Jason. Hi. Glad to be here. I'm good. Thanks.
Excellent. Glad to have you here. So first things first, you are the CEO and founder of Coinrule. What problem does Coinrule solve for me?
We try to level the playing field between professional traders and normal people. So we allow normal people to automate their trading with a simple interface. So you can say something like, if Bitcoin goes down 3%, buy this other coin at a specific price, given certain conditions. And then you press play, and this machine goes on the market and trade on your behalf. So you can basically build algorithmic trading in few seconds.
But when I think of automated algorithmic trading and investment and stuff like that, I start to think of high-powered arbitrage, investment companies paying to be as physically close to the stock exchange as possible, baking their operating systems onto the chips so that they can get as much performance out of it as possible. Is that your world? Is it that exciting, or is it a bit more laid back than that?
It's a little bit more laid back. I mean, we all read the beautiful book Flash Boys, right? About that, the coming of the high-frequency traders. And that's a legit job, right? And it's a very good challenge. But we are in the low-frequency trading field. So for us, an execution happens in 1 or 2 seconds, and that's good enough for retailers. So for us, a very good element is actually teaching and having people learn how to trade so they can manage their own finances. So we come from a very laid-back, understandable type of, for the finance. And also, we try to use plain English and to explain, everything that the app is doing for the users. In fact, you can set up your own strategies, your own blocks, the condition block, the action blocks, and understand what you're doing.
But it's fair to say that crypto can be fairly volatile as well. Do you find that you have to do anything in particular within the platform to try and put guardrails around that, make sure that people don't lose all their money because of bizarre shifts, or do you kind of just let people look after themselves and hope that it's okay?
We have some measures in place. So, for example, we have one specific functionality that limits the amount of coin you can trade, especially if they are like low market cap coin. So because there is no liquidity. As well as we always, when you select our templates, we give you specific ranges to play with. So you know that you don't need to have on a specific trend following strategy, you cannot put more than 10% on stake.
So you're trying to save people from themselves and save people from the market speculation that happens in some of these coins as well.
Yeah, I mean, it depends which strategy you want, right? Some people love the volatility. It's a lot of fun. Some other people just they're more cautious.
And are you focusing solely on crypto at the moment, or are you offering any other options right now?
At the moment, yeah, we are focused on crypto because it's basically an unregulated market. So for us, it was a very easy way to go to the market, validate the product, and find the product market fit before going to other asset classes. But it's in the roadmap for us to go towards stocks first, and then also to do some experiments on the DeFi space. So we are starting with the Solana and also with the Polygon. Those are very two interesting chains.
But are you worried about regulation? I mean, obviously it's not possible to regulate the tech, but it's certainly possible to regulate the money going in and out, right? certainly for the average person on the street at least. Is that something that concerns you and that you have to spend a lot of time worrying about?
I mean, not at the moment, but I mean, I'm in favor of some degree of regulations, and I mean, especially in our space, when there are a lot of new, finance like startups coming up and new innovations. So actually, we had a very, very long conversation with the FCA. We managed to get into the crypto asset business registration list. But then, since we are not custodian, the FCA told us, like, look, you don't need to be regulated, so we're taking off of the list. So it was like a little bit the opposite, right? But I think, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to regulate the DeFi space because that's now the new frontier of the crypto market, the staking and staking, the yield farming, the flash loans. It's very complicated from a technical point of view, and the regulators at the moment are not really ready to cope with all that technological advancement. I mean, in the UK, that's basically the best, the best financial authority in the world. In some degree, they cover most of the technicalities, but yeah, they're still like years and years away. I think regulation will come, especially when we're going to have the CBT, the stable coins that are more becoming kind of governmental adopted coins.
We'll keep our eyes open. But you're not an exchange yourself, as far as I understand. You're kind of wired up to other people's exchanges and kind of automate the process of buying and selling through those. But do you use any blockchain technology yourself? And if not, have you tried?
Not yet, but we're doing a proof of concept on Solana as we speak. Solana, it's great. You can have more than 60,000 transactions per second. The fees are very, very low, like almost like cents. And so it's perfect for our use case. Even if, building on Ethereum will be much more easy because the ecosystem is just huge. And now they're moving to Ethereum 2.0. So at the moment, we don't use blockchain. We are building a proof of concept. But also, what I wanted to say is also in terms of exchange, we tried always to avoid regulations. So we tried always to kind of leave the fat, to the others. We just get the meat, right? So on Coinrule, you do the KYC, all the process on the underlying platform. So you sign up on Coinbase, on Binance, and then after you can connect those platform with Coinrule just through an API key. So it's very safe for the users because we don't touch your money, but also it's doesn't give us much liability. So that was perfect way to start. But in the future, probably we are looking at some new product lines that will involve custodial services as well.
I was going to say, so you kind of got the best of all worlds at the moment, but do you really consider yourselves a crypto company yourselves, or are you more of a generic investment platform that just happens to be using crypto at the moment? Like, how much of a crypto fundamentalist would you consider yourself?
That's a good question. I think we are not really fundamentalist at all. In fact, we just descoped Bitcoin from our platform. So you cannot use BTC as a base currency anymore because of some environmental policies that we have, but we'll discuss that later probably.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I think that's the direction we are taking basically. I mean, we are kind of a bridge between the old world of finance and the new world of finance because we come from a fintech space and we do crypto, right? But then in the future, we can really just go directly into the DeFi and have a more like tech-oriented approach. For us, it's always important to work on the go-to-market, on the interface, make experience that people uses. And then, no matter if it's, we use a centralized database or DLTs, for us, the technology is just functional to our design first approach.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because some people will very coherently argue that there's not many problems that a blockchain will solve for you that you couldn't solve via another method. Do you think that's fair for your use cases, or do you think there's anything that you really think it's going to make a difference? Like, for example, that POC that you're doing at the moment.
I mean, on the surface, you could say that potentially you can do something similar with, but then when you go into the actual details of the hash rate, the transparency the blockchain gives, the reliability, also the speed, there are a lot of small technicalities, and I think we're just at the beginning, right? It's going to be like all this finance world is going to be changed by blockchain in the next 20 years, and obviously now some use cases are not really evident to our eyes. But as soon as they come out, everyone is like, okay, it makes sense. It happened just now with NFTs, right? I mean, art and digital art has been waiting for 50 years for something like that. And finally, it arrived. Since the 70s, we have video art, right? But you can never claim that, an art piece, it's yours. Because, all these certifications are like, half of it are fake, the one that are on the market. So now NFT is actually solving that big problem. And then I foresee also more other use cases like STOs, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, some people will also argue, and I'm not necessarily sure I disagree, that NFTs kind of a bit of a solution searching for a problem in some ways at the moment, given that so much of it is kind of based on other terms and conditions and other platforms like OpenSea and stuff like that. Like it kind of seems to be a bit messy a little bit at the moment. And obviously also one of my biggest problems with NFTs at the moment is that every NFT I see, whatever the merits of the technology, all I see are loads of luminous or fluorescent lions and monkeys and stuff like that. It's like, look, that's fine, I guess, if you want to spend money on those things, but it just feels like if that's going to be the future of anything, I'd like to see it be the future of something better than that. But maybe that's just me being an old man. I don't know.
No, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I understand. I mean, but again, there's a lot of tech people that just throw stuff out there and then try to sell it. But what happened the last 3 months, actually, the mainstream art came into play with NFTs. And I think like a month ago, there was an exhibition in London. I didn't manage to buy one piece I really wanted to buy from Kazi Rias. I mean, they're like, on this exhibition, they were like real artists using NFTs. And for them, the use case is pretty strong. So Kazi Rias went up to $38,000. So I didn't want to spend that amount. But, he has been doing net art for the last, he's the guy that invented processing, the programming language for art. So this guy, it's already in the history books and at the MoMA and like in many museums.
But let's talk about the environment, because you've described yourself as a crypto-environmentalist, and it's fair to say you don't need to look too far to see horror stories about the energy usage of crypto, either Bitcoin hashing taking the energy equivalent of Finland up just to keep going, or, of course, NFTs everyone's complaining about now because of the amount of energy it takes to process those transactions as well. Now, you've touched on it a little bit, I guess, with regards to like delisting Bitcoin because you're worried about the environmental impact of that. But do you think that there's anything else that you yourself or that the cryptocurrency community in general should be doing to try and make this a bit better? Because it's always going to be hanging over crypto. Some people are always going to be saying, well, look, this is just bad for the world.
I mean, I think the team is much, much bigger, right? I mean, there's the famous program, like quote about like software is going to eat the world. And actually software, requires servers. And there are like a lot of data centers from, everywhere in the world, from the big giants, actually consuming a lot of energy. Now, if you take finance, the old world of finance, they also consume a lot of electricity. And on the other side, we are building the new world of finance, right? And we are destructuring all the elements of that, saving accounts, transfers, everything. Now, we started with the Bitcoin. That was kind of the first milestone, right? And then it's technology that is there and it's old, obsolete. And it's going to die the same way Napster, 20 years ago died. And it was the first music stream service. And also, like, I see a lot of people just bringing a lot of improvements. All the consensus protocols, basically the proof of work, the proof of stake, they're like just evolving. Solana uses like 2-3 consensus mechanisms, and it works very, very cool. And also now we're having all the layer 1 and layer 2 solutions, all the abstraction from the infrastructure. So I think all this new, the technology is very primordial, it's very new. But I think it's evolving towards a more efficient like use of the energy, and also potentially, also on the back office, how we produce energy, we will be also able to have more modular energy that comes from different sources, not just from carbon, right? Because it's cheap. I think it's always a mix. Everything needs to converge, right? Regulation, technology, understanding, and also common sense about the specific how much we consume and what we produce with this money.
Yeah, the regulation thing is interesting, although, of course, one of the big pros of cryptocurrency is the lack of regulation, right? So it'll be interesting to see how the crypto community take regulation. I mean, I've already seen people complaining about any sniff of regulation anywhere, so I guess we'll see where that goes. But you were recently listed on a list of 21 startups to watch in Central Europe, according to VCs, a list published by Sifted, I believe. So how did that come about? Did they think you were a blockchain company and get caught up in the hype, or was there some other way in for you there?
No, I think they really know our business because the guy that mentioned us was Z from Octopus. So, we've been having so many meetings with them. They wanted to invest in us, and now they're having a little bit more. Maybe they're going to join the next round. I think that, we always end up on these like rankings, but they mean nothing, right? Like, at the end of the day, we did the Y-Combinator. It was an amazing experience. We did like 3 months, just like very small sprint. And then we did the demo day. We got, 120 emails from several investors who wanted to throw money at us because, in Silicon Valley, that's how they do. And for us, we were, as a European startup, we were in a very strange situation because, we didn't want to raise much. So we raised 2.2 million, but we could have taken easily 5 million. But, we are very down to earth, focusing on revenues. We wanted to get just the right amount of money that takes us to the Series A. And, on all this process, obviously, we got a lot of attention, mostly because some of our investors are like the co-founder of Twitch, the co-founder of Fitbit, co-founder of kayak.com, Zilliqa, the crypto project. So, they're in the middle of the ecosystem in the valley, and they basically, they move a lot of different needles when they actually do stuff. So that's why we got covered a lot by all these nice papers.
Sounds really interesting. And obviously you've made some good contacts, but let's talk a little bit about the YCombinator stuff, because that's obviously, lots of people want to get in on that, right? And maybe not everyone 100% is aware about what that involves. So how did you get into that in the first place? And how did you come to people's attention? How did you get onto that batch?
I mean, YC is probably the most democratic accelerator in the world. They don't take any recommendation. You don't need to anyone. You just apply. If your project makes sense, if you have potentially some traction, you get it. So we applied, I think, 5 times in the previous years. Never got it. And this year, since the market went up a lot, we were making something like $150,000 revenue per month. They really wanted us to get it, even if a typical, YC company doesn't have customers, doesn't have traction. Anyway, so the batch was huge, like 400 companies. And we were among the top 10 that were generating a good amount of revenues. And we also didn't want to really get in because, it involved flipping the company from the UK to the US.
Right.
And first of all, that was an expensive process, very expensive.
So you're US registered now, eh?
Yeah, we have all the operation in the UK, but the holding company is in the US. Right. We use the lawyers from Coinbase use as well. So they're very expert in crypto. Super expensive flip, 3 months of work. But also we didn't want, we like to be European, right? And
sure.
The Americans, they have their own.
I wish I still was.
No way we are in the UK. But, America, they have their own way of doing stuff. And you can see when you meet the group partner at YC, they're great, but they're very, very fast and to the point, very strict about specific processes. Also on product, they give us a lot of very good ideas how to change the process, because obviously myself as well, I come from more innovation labs in the banks, right? Before I start messing around with startup. And what happened in the bank, you have a typical Kanban wall, you have very long sprints, you have a team where you have business analyst, a copywriter, a tech lead, a design lead, a scrum master. And in a startup, you don't have all these privileges or all these people specialties. Yeah. So what YC told us was to focus on one feature every month and just prioritize like hell. And it's not easy, right? I mean, probably all the audience of this podcast know how easy it is to prioritize one feature against the others and how to fight against the other. So if you're in a big company, it's about politics. If you're in a startup, you're really shouting at each other every time. Because on one side, we have our customer success team. They talk with the users. They know what's needed. On the other side, there's our vision. On the other side, there are all the technical depth and limitations. And it's difficult to find the right puzzle in every product planning. But that's what YC really told us. So before YC, we were running more cautious and smooth product management process. But after that, we just was like, you know what? Every 2 weeks, all the team works on a big task. That's it. And there's going to be maybe one guy on maintenance fixing the bugs. But that's what was the best gift from that program. Together with obviously the funding.
Yeah, that little thing. But I guess that's an interesting segue then into how you're actually building this day to day, right? So you've talked a little bit about some of the stuff that you've changed. So what does your product development process look like today? How does product work at Coinrule?
Yeah, so what happened historically, we were very bad at doing the right research before the implementation, right? So we were not good at specifying the task, doing all the business analysis, and actually thinking every feature through, from A to Z. So what we came up was with this process called DDDT. I just came up with that, and it takes a little bit from everywhere, right? A little bit from the Google design sprint, a little bit from the Adobe process. So basically, DDDT stands for Discover, Define, Design, and Test. So it's something that, it's we all agree with. It's important. And we have this at least 4 sessions before we send a big feature into production. And it's become a thing now. Basically, we do twice a week. The 5 leads in the team, they come on and they just feel free to specify the tasks. We do user journey together in a collaborative way. We open the Miro board and we all actually go there and we specify the user journeys. Also because at the moment we don't have a designer. So actually we are looking for a design lead. If someone is is actually listening here and know someone, please get in touch. Recruitment is always takes most of all my time at the moment, so it's important. But with this DDT, it's really working very well. I think mostly is also because by nature I work in a collaborative way because I come from a design background. So for me, it's all about workshop, facilitating, having post-its, sketching around, and then you kind of visualize, you envision the idea, and out of that you can see how it's going to work. So it's really design first approach. And sometimes this approach, it's not so good for the tech side. I just miss some part, we don't specify some part of the backend or maybe some of the data part. But yeah, it's been working so far. And I think just by a rough estimation, we probably sped up the process by 50%, I would say. Like we just delivered a new payment module like in 4 weeks. It was just amazing. Like just blew my mind.
So you then taking a lead on the product side yourself, like obviously given your UX background, you've got some of those skills already of kind of helping to define what good looks like and doing some of that user research and helping to try and turn that into things that are real. Like, is that something that you're leading yourself or do you have a product team with you as well?
I'm leading myself like as a product lead, and then I have all the specialists working with me. I think obviously I'm non-technical, so sometimes we had some problem more on the technical features, but now we got a new CTO, and I think there's the right balance. We have the new CTO, our technical co-founder became CIO, so we have basically 2 CTOs in LF, and they're sustaining me and the CEO Oleg as well in delivering the product. So all the team is working on product in our company. Even if you're doing a small stuff, like even the customer success team, we get them involved for a lot of different reasons, but mostly user research. So for example, user research for us is like huge.
Yeah.
We talk every month to at least 100 users in a different ways, qualitative, quantitative. We show them like mock-ups. We have a small community of beta users that we just harass them with a lot of questions, but they're happy to help. So user research is very systemic. We make space. We make space for the research, for analyzing the research, for the show and tell where everyone joins. We invite also developers to join the sessions. So it's it's a religion in our company.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think just bedding that in with the entire company, I think is really important. And I think your point around like getting everyone involved is absolutely essential to make good decisions. But you talked about user research, and I think it's fair to say that the crypto crowd can be fairly opinionated. I guess that you're talking at least partly to some of these opinionated crypto people. Do you find that there's a lot of goodwill towards your mission, or do you feel that there's a lot of kind of people that think that they can just do it themselves and they don't need something like you? Or do you just kind of screen those people out?
Actually, it's the opposite, What happened, we found that even good programmers, they will come to us and just use us because they don't want to bother to write few scripts for like, and code them for like few days. So actually, what they like, the fact that we have templates and the fact that we have the head of trading also in the community. So lately, the behavior, we have seen this behavior. People post one strategy and then everyone helps to optimize that strategy. And then they use it for the next film. So what we saw is like, yeah, there are a lot of opinionated people in the crypto space, but mostly they're the non-technical one because the one that are technical, they just heads down and they work and they build their own solution. But what we found with us, we have had like family offices using us. They could just employ, 3 developers and do themselves, but they don't want it, just like the off-the-shelf solution.
Yeah.
We have had a crypto developer coming to us like, I'm just going to use this. And sometimes they also help with integrations. So now we integrated with the trading view. It was super nice, super smooth, 2-week sprint. We just delivered everything tested and deployed because 2-3 users were very technical and they really helped us shaping that functionality. So I would say probably in the crypto space, designers, UX people, product people should get more involved with this space and actually contribute because, the technology is cool, but then you need to use it and you need to make it to become human, right? So.
Well, there's a lot of talk these days, certainly on Twitter and social media around the fact that all this Web3 stuff, which everyone's talking about now, is suffering quite badly from lack of design thinking, right? Because you've just got a bunch of programmers that don't know how to design stuff, that are putting stuff out that is functional at best, but doesn't really give you a really good solution. Is that something that you're interested in maybe helping to support, like taking some of your design skills out to the wider crypto community and helping them sort that out? Or do you think you've got enough to do?
No, totally. I already do I do a lot of givebacks. I lecture sometimes at University of Palermo in Italy. I'm like, mentors at Zilliqa and Google Accelerator. And that's what I do actually. I do For example, with Google, I come in on Tuesday when it's like the UX and user research day. So I give a lot back because, it's needed. With every technology, you have always the research phase, then you actually have the technology that works. And then to drive the adoption, you need to have the humanist, let's say.
Yeah.
And the humanists are, designers are kind of part of that.
Absolutely. Well, you just mentioned Google, so let's talk about that. You've been a mentor at Google Launchpad for around 6 years now, I believe, mentoring startups on product and UX. So how did you get involved in that in the first place? And how much time is it taking up? I mean, you just said Tuesdays, but is it just Tuesdays?
No, it's actually at one day every 3 months. It's not really a big deal. It's I got invited by some other friends that saw me presenting a keynote in another conference, and it's like every 3 months. It happens anywhere in Europe, in Romania, in Milan, in London. We go there. We do the design sprint. They select, I think, 10 startups. Mostly it's like around really prop tech, healthcare. They're like women founders, very very specific group of people. And it's just exciting. I do it because of the mentors that I meet every time. They're like just amazing people. And then, you can expand your network. But also, I ended up also like working with some of the people that I met during one of these accelerators. So it's just a great experience. It's my way just to give back to the community.
Oh, no, here. I think it's always important to give back and mentor the next generation as well. But is it exclusively... are you talking to people from really early startups? Is that really the type of people that go there? Yeah. Is it, you don't get to work with any big firms and try and sort their problems out as well?
Yeah, I think it's a super early stage startup. Yeah, sometimes they're like really at business model canvas level, where they're still figuring out the market and everything. I think now they have also a program it's called kind of Google Scale Up or something. That's more for post-seed companies. But yeah, it's very early stage. I think that's where my also personally where I have most fun, because you can do like a huge blueprint of the service and you can really shape the idea from scratch, especially the monetization model, the pricing, because that's something at early stage companies don't really think about. Monetization, that's a big problem. We can run so many experiments on pricing, and we do at Coinrule, we do like crazy experiments for the pricing. But then, we really thought about those very, very from the first day, because I really care about revenues. That's my only metric I care about Coinrule. Metrics, and also like weekly active users, that basically means revenues as well.
That's fair enough. I think it's always important to have a small set of metrics that you care about rather than trying to track everything as well. But it's also true that Coinrule isn't your first startup. You've had a couple in your time with fintech and, interestingly, fashion tech as well, which I could probably sign up for and get some hints. But with those startups, have they all been glorious exits or terrible mistakes or a bit of both?
Oh gosh, no. They've been like a disaster. Let's say they've been very good learning experiences. Where do we start? So the fashion one you were mentioning, I come from a family of hairdressers. It's like 5 generations, a typical Italian story. So at some point I wanted to mix up my technological, side with my hairdressing experience. And so it was a Uber for hairdressing. In that case, the business, was kind of taking off. It's just that I didn't like the space. There was no founder market fit. That's also very important, founder market fit. It's very, that kind of space, it's very operational. The growth is very organic. So I wasn't feeling really stimulated. So I just closed the business, and we pivoted to a specific user need that then became the second startup. That's Paylinko. So that was solving mobile payments for contractors and sole traders. We were in the space together with some app, iZettle, those sort of machine where you can accept payments on the go. And that one really failed because of I didn't manage to recruit the right people, and I was not really self-disciplined. So I think that those were the main learnings. Also, my co-founder got deported. Basically, she was this Chinese lady, and she had to go back because her visa expired. In startup world, all sorts of things happen. And it's nice to to remember, remind this time. But actually, it's very painful. It's physically painful. Sometimes you cannot eat because you're just like too in the flow with the team. Or sometimes especially at the beginning, you have a 9-to-5 job, and then at 5 starts your startup job. So that's the beginning, right? So the first 6 months is always hell because you need to set up the company, but it's good to have still cash flow coming in. And after going then full time on your startup, it's also quite difficult to do. a lot of people don't do the jump, but that's the important part, actually, to be able to give yourself, 6 months to start business, but then 1 year to actually make it run and generate the first revenues. So I've seen a lot of cases where then the founders, after the first 6 months, they were not brave enough to jump full time into that ventures. And I was the opposite. I was always jumping too early. So it was extra stress on me because not having cash flow coming in can generate a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, so you've mentioned cash flow a few times, and it's obviously something that you're really conscious of in your startup as well. So is that your biggest takeaway or biggest piece of advice for early stage founders, or have you got anything else that you think is more important than that to concentrate on?
I think, the very early stage, yes, totally. The first year of the company, yes, cash flow, it's important. Just need to get out of the water and survive. And then after that, what we do now, we focus on Coinrule, for example, it's in 3 pillars. We have a pillar people, data, and experience. Those are our 3 pillars that we focus on. So basically, every day we interview 5 to 6 people. I make sure that the product experience advance every day, and also that in terms of data, we try to monetize those data. Now, I know that we are sitting at the moment in Coinrule on a huge amount of data that we can really, really use, monetize, in terms of what strategy they put in place, how do they share data, what are the profit, and we can really monetize those one and understand. In fact, we are recruiting for a data scientist. But for early stage startup, the first step is, survive first, because the first year is just 90% fluke. They just get wiped out. And don't go full time straight away. Have a little bit of buffer between your 9 to 5 job and going full time on your startup.
Excellent. We'll share that with the relevant people. And you've created your own framework, as you said before, your own way to define product features, DDDT or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a book coming on that? Maybe you can do the Basecamp thing and come out with some new transformative book for the product community?
I think yes. Also, my co-founder would be happy about that. Probably we write it together. Yeah, I think totally. At some point when I have time, I think I'll put everything on paper. I document everything, so there's going to be a lot of materials that we can use for that.
Well, there you go. I'll check Amazon and keep in the loop.
But you know what? We should find a better name. DDDT sounds like a disease.
Yeah, chemical or something. Yeah, no, we need to do another design sprint just to come up with a new name, right?
Exactly.
Where can people find you after this if they want to chat to you about crypto, about NFTs, I guess, or anything about Coinrule or entrepreneurship in general?
They just write me, gab@coinrule.com, or, just find me on Twitter. I'm usually Fresh Muse. And, just chat to me. It's nice. We always have we go to a lot of events. I'm myself a digital nomad, so I always go, I was supposed to go to Lisbon. Now I'm actually going to Czech Republic, because my co-founder is getting married. But usually I go to one place for a conference and then I stay 1 month there. So I actually meet all the people in that ecosystem.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure to link that all into the show notes, and then obviously people come find you and we'll see what magic happens. Well, that's been a really interesting chat. So obviously really grateful you take the time to take us through some of your journey and some of your thoughts on startups and crypto in general. Hopefully we can stay in touch. But as for now, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Jason.
As always, thanks for listening. I hope you found the episode inspiring and insightful. If you did, again, I can only encourage you to pop over to onenightinproduct.com, check out some of my other fantastic guests, sign up to the mailing list or subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and make sure you share it with your friends so you and they can never miss another episode again. I'll be back soon with another inspiring guest, but as for now, thanks and good night.